Hello movie lovers, story recaps here. Today, I'm going to explain an American psychological thriller film called Sightless. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie opens with a young girl who is lonely and miserable. She then chooses to leap off the balcony of her flat. The scenario changes to a month earlier and features the same young lady, Helen. Helen was formerly a well-known musician. She is viciously attacked one night in a parking lot by an armed assailant who douses her eyes in chemicals while donning a gas mask. She is then promptly taken to a hospital where she later awakens on a bed with both of her eyes bandaged. Oma, a nurse, arrives shortly to remove the bandages. She discovers she is blind as the bandages are removed. Soon later, Dr. Katsuro walks into her room. He adds that the chemicals she was exposed to scorched, but did not damage, her optic nerve. Simply put, she is now totally blind and the damage is irrevocable. Ellen is devastated that she has permanently lost her sight and only grudgingly accepts her new reality. Then, a detective by the name of Bryce appears and questions her regarding the occurrence. She informs Detective Bryce of what she is aware of. A short while later, Ellen makes phone contact with her brother in Tokyo. He informs her that he has arranged for her to live in a secret apartment near the city center with a caretaker who specializes in assisting persons like her, who are adapt to their new lifestyle. The following morning, Ellen awakens in her new apartment and meets Clayton, her new caregiver. Her inability to recall the journey home from the hospital is explained by Clayton as a result of the potent medicines she is taking. Clayton informs her that he is a trained caregiver and will help Ellen adjust to life as a blind person gradually by helping her with daily tasks. Every day at 11 a.m., he will visit her residence before leaving at 2 p.m. As he describes the layout of the flat to Ellen, he adds that she is now in her new apartment on the 9th floor of the building. Ellen tries to phone her brother and friend Sasha after Clayton left, but neither of them returns her calls. She feels so alone because she has no one to talk to during this trying time, neither family nor friends. The following day, Clayton brings Ellen a cage-bound pet budgie. She inquires as to its color. She learns it's baby blue from Clayton. After that, Ellen discovers that while positioned next to one of her windows, she can hear the commotion coming from the busy street below, but not when she is situated next to another window. She won't be able to hear anything because of the stronger glass there, according to Clayton. The two of them then converse with one another about their life, gradually developing a strong bond. Clayton then gives his consent for Ellen to touch his face. Ellen hears a lady screaming that night while she is being abused by someone. At first, she assumes the woman is in her apartment, but it turns out the wailing sound is coming from a vent. The following day, she decides to invite her neighbor over for tea, so she goes outside and places a note on the door of the apartment just next to hers, inviting the woman to come over. That evening, Lana, a woman, knocks on Ellen's door and enters for tea. She knows Ellen was a violinist before she lost her sight, but she still acts strangely around Ellen. Even though they have only recently met, she seems to know a lot about Ellen. To her surprise, when Ellen touches her face, a recent scar on Lana's face is felt. Lana replies, telling her not to put her faith in anyone. She then exits the apartment quickly. Ellen starts to believe that Lana is being physically abused by her husband. Therefore, Ellen contacts Detective Bryce and informs him of the mistreatment her neighbor is experiencing at the hands of her husband. Officer Neiman is dispatched by Detective Bryce to speak with her neighbor and make sure everything is okay. He later certifies that she is well and that the scar was simply a birthmark. She discovers something odd about the location the following morning. Clayton is informed that a car alarm goes off on alternate days at exactly 11 a.m., the time Clayton arrives at her place daily. Same alarm, same time, same car. Clayton dismisses the anomalies and informs Ellen that there are several sirens because it is a large city. Ellen believes Lana enters the flat once more later that evening. But as she touches her shoulder, Lana's controlling husband emerges. She is warned by him to leave his wife alone and to quit being so suspicious. Ellen immediately requests Clayton's arrival because she feels intimidated. When Clayton shows up, he consoles her. At that point, Clayton admits to her his feelings for her. Ellen, however, declines the interest by saying that she currently needs a caregiver more than a boyfriend. Clayton exits the apartment in tears. She is attacked once more by the person wearing the gas mask not long after Clayton departs. Before she falls unconscious as the attacker presses a needle to her neck, Ellen manages to call 911. Later, the paramedic informs her that she has no visible wounds and that there are no needle marks on her neck. She is informed by Detective Price that the CCTV also reveals that Clayton is the only person to enter the flat after him. Ellen is upset after hearing that since she no longer believes her own perceptions. Ellen resolves to take her own life because she feels cut off from everyone in her life and thinks someone is stalking her. Returning to the beginning at that point, we see her writing a suicide note before climbing the balcony railing and jumping off. Ellen falls 6 feet, yet she is fine and survives. She immediately realizes that she is in a soundproofed space. A space with no doors. A space with speakers that play city sounds. Both the city and the building are made up. She rapidly finds that the apartment she was sleeping in was a fake, and that all the noises she thought were coming from outside were actually coming from a speaker system. She returns to the apartment after hearing the 11 o'clock car alarm go off. She returns to her residence, climbs inside, and when she looks around the corridor, she discovers she is unable to leave. She then exits and raps on Lana's door. Lana also informs her that there is no leaving because this is home. Clayton then shows up to start cooking Ellen's meal. Ellen hears Clayton tap on the table twice as they sit down to eat dinner. Ellen notices the double tap knock and understands that it has been used by everyone she has spoken to since the attack. At that point, she understands that every single person she had encountered since she first awoke in the hospital, the nurse, the doctor, the police investigator, the paramedic, and Lana's husband, was actually Clayton. She pretends to spill her drink and smacks him on the head with a knife block after realizing this. She promptly grabs a taser and his key before running inside the unit next door along the corridor. Clayton needed to pull off this fake since it is actually a strange empty storage space where he keeps all of his costumes and other items. Clayton has been playing everyone by donning various disguises. What's more shocking is that when Ellen discovers her attacker's outfit, it turns out that Clayton was the one who attacked her to make her blind and then brought her right to this fictitious apartment to hold her hostage. Then, in a secret room, she discovers Lana, who is real. She was carried to this fictitious hospital room at the beginning of the movie. She admits that she is Clayton's sister and that she assisted in Ellen's kidnapping. She then informs Ellen that using the secret vent in Clayton's chamber is the last chance of escaping. Clayton follows Ellen as she tries to flee, knocks her unconscious, and carries her into his room. The only exit is through a wall vent in the chamber that Lana had previously described. Ellen notices that she has yet another opportunity to flee as she senses the air coming from the vent. Clayton begins a monologue in which he justifies his behavior. When he was a child, after their mother had passed away, his father had imprisoned him and his sister Lana for 3 years in the basement. Clayton had only been able to live by creating imaginary characters in his head, giving them backstories, and acting like them. The music Lana played for them in the attic, though, was what really rescued him. He was listening to Ellen's music, a young violin prodigy. She is his light in the dark, as he calls her. He intended to do the same for her going forward. As he explains his background and motivations, Ellen seizes the opportunity to taser him and opens the vent, but she finds that it is too narrow for her to fit through. Ellen discovers a tiny vial of the same poison that had rendered her blind taped inside the vent. She sprays the liquid into Clayton's eyes when he turns around once more, effectively rendering him also blind. Lana appears on the scene as Clayton writhes in agony. After observing Clayton's impairment, she releases Ellen and ushers her into the outside world. A delighted audience can be heard as Ellen gets ready to take the stage 6 months later. And so, the film comes to a close. Here is the justification. We might notice that Ellen appears in every scene from the very beginning to the very finish of this movie. This is because Ellen is the main character throughout the entire movie. In this movie, everything we see is what Ellen believes to be there. We see what Ellen believes she would be seeing. As viewers, the only things we can rely on are what Ellen hears and what she touches. The initial bird, which transforms from green to blue when Clayton tells Ellen that the bird is blue, serves as the best example of this. We perceive the bird as blue if Ellen believes it to be blue. We constantly see the person who Ellen assumes someone is when they appear in front of Ellen because of this. However, as soon as they speak or as soon as Ellen touches them, we understand who they really are since Ellen is doing so, and this point of view is used throughout the entire movie. Ellen has been attempting to get in touch with her best friend, as we can clearly see in the film, but she hasn't been picking up or returning her calls. This is as a result of Clayton cutting her off from the outer world. Friends and family of Ellen were unaware that she was missing. Nobody knew where she was or what she was dealing with. In the final moments of the film, Clayton tells Ellen that he wants to be for her the light in the darkness. We can presume that he blinded Ellen in the expectation that she would be weak and in need of him. As a result, his persona is similar to someone with Munchausen by proxy, a mental health condition in which a caregiver invents or actually causes an illness or injury in a person in their care. Ellen was also informed by Clayton that he used to make up different personalities while in the attic, in order to have his own imaginary buddies. He tricks Ellen into thinking she is conversing with several characters, using the skill he honed in the attic of playing multiple characters. Even Ellen's brother's voice is imitated by him. In the final scene, Ellen is back on stage performing the violin 6 months later. It's not quite obvious whether she still has her sight, so it's possible that Clayton, who was posing as the doctor and telling her the damage was irreversible, wasn't lying. She might have merely been temporarily blind, and since he lied about the color of the bird in her apartment, we might not even be able to trust him on this. That is how I would explain the movie Sightless. Don't forget to subscribe for more recaps like this, switch on alerts, and give the channel a thumbs up to help it grow. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Let's meet up the next day for another evaluation.